Hi again, everybody. I'm Jamie Allison, and this is the Big Idea, Big Moves podcast. This is the destination for high performers. We talk to people from different areas doing different things, different niches, just people doing really cool things in their space that we can take bits and pieces around from what they're doing and hopefully apply them in our own lives. So we talk to athletes, we talk to CEOs, entrepreneurs, just people doing really cool things in their space. And I know I have one of those today. I know people are going to be really excited for today's guest. Just before we jump into that, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that we have a relationship with Epitome Sportswear, and they fit really nicely with us because they are great for, you know, whether it's going to a CrossFit gym, going to gym, and all of those things. But also it might be just nice gear to be able to take your kid to the soccer game or a hockey game or whatever it is that you're doing as well. The thing that we really like about them and aligns well with us as well is that they like to give back to the community that they serve. And so they're working hard to impact the inequities in opportunity for girls and women in sport. And for that reason, a portion of their profits go directly to organizations and initiatives that support girls in sport. So check them out. You can go to our Instagram bio, and we have a discount code in there. You can go through and check it out, or just go to Epitome Sportswear. That's EPITOME sportswear.com. And today, really excited to have this conversation. You know, a lot of people will have kind of seen some of this recently, but Jeffrey Adler's with us today. He's fresh off an amazing kind of fifth place finish at the 2022 NoBull CrossFit Games. He came out as well, if you've been watching, on top at the Atlas Games semifinal this year. And also, if you reel back even further, he was on the podium at Wodapalooza as well, which is kind of the introductory start of the season. So a really good season for him. He's also the co-owner of CrossFit Wonderland in Montreal, and with his coach and fiancé, I believe, Caroline Lambray as well. So first of all, you know, Jeffrey, I know we're going to talk a little bit about that, but maybe congratulations on such another kind of awesome performance at the CrossFit Games.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, you know, why don't we start there? Because, you know, obviously we talk a little bit about some of your background and stuff getting there, but that result, I mean, it kind of ties, I think, a result that you've had before. You've been fifth before. What were you shooting for? Was that kind of in line with what you were looking to be able to do this year? It was a really good kind of test this year as well.
Yeah, I think the goal was to be in the top five again, to like make sure that I could be at least in the top five. I feel like the podium wasn't so far away this year, but we still have some improvements to make and try for a podium maybe next year.
And how does it feel? I mean, you know, so I'm Canadian, so it's kind of nice to see how many Canadians are kind of interspersed across things when you're there. But I mean, top Canadian male again, and you did that in Atlas Games as well. So how does that feel? I mean, you came out just ahead of Pat Vellner this time as well, just ahead of him. How does that feel?
I mean, it feels good because I mean, Pat and Brent have been the top Canadian men for many years. They've podiumed many times, and even though like it wasn't probably their best weekend this weekend, the result is what it is. And yeah, so this year I'm carrying the flag for at least this next few months, and then I mean the goal is going to be to keep it even next year. So if I can beat Pat on a good weekend, then it's probably a podium finish for me. So
yeah, well, and you had a really cool kind of event when you were there as well, and it's one that a lot of people say. I mean, it was in your wheelhouse because it's a lot of like lifting and carrying. When you saw that one come up, does it automatically come for you? Oh, that's going to be a good event for me. Did you feel that way when you heard the event announced?
Yeah, I mean, event 12, the yoke carry, the cleans, and the deadlifts. I mean, I never think I'm gonna win a workout because you never know. Like someone can have a really great performance, you can make a mistake. I actually made quite a big mistake. I missed my first squat clean going in the two I had to make. But it's definitely a workout that for me is an easy top three, especially that one. Like the yoke was really heavy. I think it was 665 pounds, and I know I can carry for that distance. I can carry a lot more, so the yoke didn't bother me, and that was where the biggest difference was made, is on the walk. So yeah, I was excited because getting at the end of the weekend like 100 points is very valuable. not just the win, but also the points for the overall standing. So I was happy to be able to get those points.
And was there a favorite part of the games this time? I mean, I know it was a little different. I mean, a lot of people are
Yeah.
saying when they went to the Capitol, when they did that, different things. Was there a favorite moment for you?
I think for me, my favorite event is the first one. Actually,
Yeah.
the bike to work is the one I find it was really hard. I think that workout, the bike workout, was harder than the Capital.
Hmm.
The Capital was very special as well because it was the first time in Madison we would get like in the city, like run to the city and then have a part of the event there at the
Hmm.
Capital. It's really nice, but I still prefer the bike to work event. There's more than just the event itself. There's also like the day prior, we do the bike fitting. We get to go around the course and
Yeah.
see like all that also weighs in like for that event. It makes it really special. So I think that was my favorite event.
And one of the other things I'm going to ask you because so many people thought it was kind of different was they did the double unders with a crossover, I think, this time,
Yeah.
and so many people were saying, well, is that it just people hadn't seen it very much. What are your thoughts? I mean, you have a CrossFit gym, and what
Uh,
do you think of that?
I don't know. I think that the right progression would have been triples, like
Yeah,
single, double, triple would have made a lot of sense. But Boz chose the crossover. I mean, some guys were practicing in the warm up area. I was like, I'm not even practicing. Like, we'll see if I get there, I'll practice on the floor and see what happens.
yeah,
I don't know. It feels a bit weird. I think it looked a bit weird. I'd prefer like something like triples,
yeah,
something that looks similar to what we're used to. And
yeah.
yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're finished now. You have a bit of recovery time. I know that I've seen you've been taking advantage of a little bit of recovery time
Yeah.
afterwards. To people who aren't used to it, do you have much recovery time before you have to go heavily into something else or into a new almost season after that?
Well, I think we have to like at the end of the season, like even the few weeks prior to the games is we're tired.
Yeah,
Every athlete is working really hard. It's the summer, so it's hot. Like it's difficult training. It's a difficult training period. We're doing a lot of volume, a lot of intensity. So yeah, after the games, like body needs a break, but also need a mental break as well.
hmm,
This year we did a little bit different. So usually we go on vacation, we go somewhere, but we came back to Montreal directly home, like try to stay put and relax as much as we can, spend some time with our gym members and just staying in one place, not traveling too much. It
yeah.
feels good.
Yeah, yeah. And going along with that, I mean, obviously you're spending time with your fiance at the same time, but that kind of leads me into that whole question about, I mean, she's your coach as you go through this. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And maybe I'll ask what's that like to, do you how do you separate those things? I've had Tia on the podcast before and asked her how her and Shane do that, and you'd probably know because you're Canadian. Ryan Atkins and Lindsay Webster, they aren't coaches per se, but they train together. And just how do they
Yeah.
do that together? So how do you guys do that and kind of keep it separate, but at the same time work together?
I mean, when it's coach and athlete time, it's coach and athlete time, and when it's not, then it's something else. Like we we try to get it like separated as much as we can.
Mhm.
I mean, we live CrossFit. Like we own a gym. I train all day. Carol coaches. She coaches me. She has other athletes as well. So it's quite hard to separate everything and
Yeah.
like take CrossFit out of our lives for a bit. But I think every now and then, like we just try to do something else. Get out the house. Don't not go to the gym. Like do something else and try to talk about CrossFit as little as possible. And we have projects, like we have things we want to do in the future, so we try to plan those things and
Yeah.
see like try to start planning what I'm going to do when I stop competing. Like
Yeah.
what am I going to do? Like these are things we try to talk about. But yeah, it goes well. Like for me as a person, I
Mm.
don't have an issue with separating things. Like when it's time to work, it's time to work. But when I'm done working, like I don't want to talk about work and do work. Like I want to
Yeah.
do something else. So
Yeah.
that's how we make it work.
Wow. And obviously you've already said there that you have a business together and you both work in it. Maybe just talk about, you went through a time period that was probably pretty tough for business owners that are,
Yeah.
CrossFit gym owners and stuff with COVID and everything shutting down and things like that. I also know that you guys did a pretty good job from my understanding of doing that switch where a lot of places were struggling to do online. And I know you still do some of that. What was that like, and how did you guys kind of roll with it a little bit compared to some places?
Yeah, that was a lot of work. Honestly, Caro does most of the business stuff. She's the one that turned it around pretty quickly.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's also like the members we have, um, they didn't need a gym to train. Like you have to move your body, and this like online was what we had. Like we couldn't
yeah,
do much. Like it's middle of winter, we can't do anything outside. The
yeah,
gym is closed. Well, you have your house then. So we switched it pretty quickly, and people switched as well. Some didn't like it and didn't do it, and that's fine.
yeah,
But most people did enjoy it. And I mean, when we came back into the gym, those that did keep working out at home were less. They had a less hard time coming back to the gym,
yeah,
especially like habits wise. Like it's easy to lose habits, and the gym is one that's very hard to come back. So
mhm,
these people like kept their habits, kept training. I mean, pull-ups and heavy weights were hard, yes, but they didn't lose that much. um so yeah, it was pretty good. It was
yeah,
hard because the hardest part was here in Quebec. Like we closed, open, closed, open, closed.
yeah,
At some point, they opened us for like 7 days and closed us again.
yep.
It was just ridiculous.
Yeah,
So that was the hard part, is like switching over and over. Like it's just, can we do like one thing?
yeah,
So hopefully that's over now.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's, I mean, we can all hope that's, I think, over for a good chunk of time. Um, when you're coaching, I guess that would be one thing that I'd ask is that, yeah, I mean, you're obviously an elite athlete training at a very elite level. But I've seen even just recently, you're coaching and you coach just like anybody else in a CrossFit gym.
Yeah.
How do you do that personally? Because if you find it, is it easier or difficult to be able to come down to people at a very different level than you, obviously, and how they're approaching it?
So yeah, I'm coaching right now. I'm gonna coach for the next like week, a little bit less than a week. We have some coaches on vacation, so we're
Yeah,
taking some hours. But this is the first time coaching for me in over 2 years, maybe even
yeah,
three. Um, but I mean, no, I think it's easier for me to coach because I know, like, if I look at a workout, what's the purpose of the workout is very easy for me because I do that all day.
sure.
And it's easy for me to tell other people like this is what you should feel in this workout, scale
Yeah,
accordingly. Doesn't matter the weight. Like, yes, I can do it 2 or 3 times heavier and faster,
sure.
but that doesn't matter. Like that at the end of the workout, you should feel the same thing that I feel. And that's my goal when I coach, is like making sure that people do the right stimulus in the workout. Um, the hardest part for me is because I don't coach, I don't know the limits of the members. So
Yeah,
sometimes, like, oh, they ask me what should I do. I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
if I tell you to do something and I'm wrong,
yeah,
that's gonna suck for you. So I should, like, they have to figure out like what weight and what movement, how many reps, a little bit
yeah,
by themselves. But I
yeah.
can still like help a little bit. But
They
usually
they
I
probably think it's cool that they're being coached by Jeffrey Adler anyway, so they'll probably
I
give you a
hope
little more
so.
leeway, right?
I hope so. I haven't asked really. They don't really have a choice right now. So
Yeah,
if
that's true,
I'm
I
there,
guess.
that's how it's going.
So, if you're going back into training in the next little bit, I mean, you've said that you've had that. What does the season look like for you? Because most people talk about the start of the year next year as kind of the start of the CrossFit Open season, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
other stuff that happens too. So what are your plans kind of as you kind of head into fall and that kind of thing? How does that work for you?
So right now I did start moving again.
Hmm.
A little, like not too much, and I'm very sore from what I did this week. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna take it really easy for at least another week or two. Single sessions, not doubles. Haven't touched anything heavy yet, and I don't think I'm ready to right now. but the goal is just to start moving again, getting into the groove of things, like beginning mid-September, and then training pretty hard for end of September and October, because I'm going to be competing at the Rogue Invitational, which is October 28th to 30th.
Yep.
And that's the only off-season competition I'm going to do.
Okay.
So after Rogue, I'll dip down again, have like a second off season, if you want to call it that. Maybe have some vacation then, and we'll ramp it up for the Open in February.
Yep. And one thing it's interesting to see kind of what you're like. Have you always been in CrossFit? I mean, I know that as at the level you're at, you did that not that long ago. But have you been athletic all through kind of your when you were a teenager and things like that? Or did you play other sports and move into that, or how did that work from your end?
Yeah, so I don't have a competitive background, but as a Quebecer, like everybody plays hockey in some sort of way, either outside or in some leagues, but I've never been part of a team or anything. My first gym membership was a CrossFit gym in 2015. So I started
really?
like, I don't have a huge background. I think I was blessed with my genetics. Like I was strong from the get-go, which is great, but gymnastics is the thing that's a little bit slower to gain for me.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been working on since I started CrossFit. Actually, like
Wow.
practice the gymnastics as much as I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing very serious as a sports background.
Yeah. No, it's always interesting because they come from we had Samuel Cornway, and he said the same thing. He used to play hockey, and that was kind of what he did until he hurt himself, and then and that kind of thing. But
he played a
everybody
little
has
bit more
different
than
ways
me,
of doing
though.
it. Yeah. I think
I
he
think
played relatively high level until he hurt himself. So, yeah. So when you were starting CrossFit, then I mean, did you have did you have mentors? Did you have people that was it just kind of coaches and you picked things up? And when did you get to the point where you thought, oh, okay, I can do something? And how do you start to become a lead and look to at that point in time?
It came like very gradually. When I started, it was for fun, three
Yeah.
times a week, and then three becomes four, and then four becomes five, and five becomes six, and like that's what happens. I think with most people that start CrossFit is like you do it a little bit at the beginning, and then if you really like it, then you want to do it a lot more.
Yeah.
And then when I met Caro, even then, like I wasn't training that much. I was just training
Yeah.
for fun.
Yeah.
And at some point, like I had more time because I was working construction. So in the winter, I wouldn't work at all. I
Yeah.
had a few months during winter, and then I would train a little bit more. And when I did my first full open in 2016, I was like, oh, I'm not that far. I think I finished 130 something, and
Yeah.
they took the top 20 then for regionals. And so we set a goal to make it to regionals. That was our first goal.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I wasn't really thinking about the games. Like the goal was to get to regionals and
Yeah.
see if I could make it. It took me 2 years, so 17 and then 18, I made it.
Wow. Yeah.
And then from 18, like our first regional was, we just wanted to go and have fun.
Have the experience. Yeah.
Have the experience, and then make try for the games a year later. And then everything changed with the seasons and everything. I was
Yeah.
lucky enough to make it, but that's pretty much it.
Have things changed a lot for you the last little while? I mean, you've suddenly kind of, I mean, I know it isn't sudden from your perspective, but I mean, across the CrossFit world, you've jumped up very quickly and have become, one of those top people. Have things changed much for you with that?
I mean, no, I don't think so. Uh, what's fun now is that I can do this and live
Yeah.
from it. Like that's the
Yeah.
fun part, but it takes like quite a few years to get there.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like anybody that starts any career, like it takes 4 or 5 years before you truly make it. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, what happened for me. I think it could have been a little bit faster if we would have had the same seasons every year since my start. Like I have
Yeah.
actually done the games only twice that are the same,
Yeah.
2021 and 2022. So, I mean, I've had a different parcours, but it's Yeah, no, nothing changed. I'm still the same person. I try to work as hard as I can, and
Yeah.
I'm as hard on myself as I was before, maybe
Yeah.
even more, I guess, like to try. Like it's one thing to get to regionals, it's one thing to get to the games, but then like be really good and high on the leaderboard at the games is really hard. Like
Yeah.
that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we're gonna try.
Well, when you so when you're on the CrossFit floor and everything, if do you find does your competition come from just competing with yourself, or is it like, are you driven by the other people on the floor and I want to kind of beat the guy beside me, that kind of thing? Like, what it can be very different, whether it's individual
Yeah.
or kind of, what's it like for you?
For me, I try to zone out as much as I can,
Hmm.
but I think to make it like at the top, you need to want to beat the other guys. Like it's something
Yeah.
I haven't really done before, but those that had a lot of success, like look left to right, and they're like, "I'm gonna beat you guys." Like
Yeah.
that's what they think, that's what they want, and I think that's what's maybe missing from my part.
Yeah.
At Atlas this year, I was really focused on my own performance.
Hmm.
It worked really well, so I tried to do the same at the games, and I didn't have the same result from it. It was very different for many reasons. I think format, place. It's outside. It's not inside. It's the games. It's not the semis. Like it's very different.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe I'll have to shift a little bit my mindset before or in the events and
Yeah.
see if it works.
Yeah. Do you set, I'm sure you set very specific goals on what you're going to do with lifting and things like that, but just generally, are you the kind of person who writes down their goals for the next little while? How does that work? And maybe it's with your coach and everything, but how do you figure that out? Like, do you just go with it as it comes, or do you actually have written goals that you have over a period of time?
No, we have specific goals. I the way I want to work is be so fit that I don't have to set specific goals. That's how I want to,
Yeah.
but it doesn't work this way.
Yep.
So yeah, we did like last year, this year, we set like specific goals and like with these goals, how do we get there? Like, what are we gonna do to get there?
Yeah.
And so far, like especially this year, we've checked all the boxes. So if we can do the same next year, then that'd be nice. I mean, it's not 100% guaranteed, but at
Yep.
least like you know what you want, you know what you're shooting for, and uh, you do everything in your power to make it happen.
Yeah.
That's I think the magic behind the trick is like you have to do everything you can
Yeah.
so that it finally happens.
So how do you like, if you're I mean, probably more so down the road when you're coaching people, when maybe you're not as focused on your own training and you're doing that for others. How do you translate to somebody who it's obviously they're just trying to set goals for themselves? How would you like, would you find that difficult, I guess, or is it the same type of process, you think?
No, it's exactly the same. It's just the goals are different. Like
Hmm.
if someone comes and I just want to be healthy, then okay, we can set that as a goal. I want to have muscle ups, then yeah, but and this it's the same process. Like what are you gonna do to get it?
Yep.
What are you gonna do to get your muscle up? Are you gonna look at the bar, or are you gonna do some stuff? And if you need help, then I'm there to help.
Yeah.
But I think it's the same. It just like for some people, the goals have to be a little bit more realistic. Like if I mean, I shoot for very high goals, but also I dedicate my life to those goals. Like, and the people that work out in gyms in our gyms, like you have your own career, so you have to set like realistic expectations. Like you want to do 30 bar muscle ups unbroken. Well, unless you're like a magician of bar muscle ups, well, maybe it's going to happen, but it's maybe like a little bit shooting a little bit high. Let's start with something a little bit lower.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just have realistic expectations of what your goal is and how much time you're going to put in and how much time you actually have to get to where you want to.
Yeah, that's a great way to explain it, because I think a lot of people will listen and think, oh well, if I want to be able to perform like you, you have to be able to dedicate a whole
Yeah.
lot of time to do that. And there are
It's
people, I mean, if you have jobs and you're doing fitness and you're doing your finance and all that kind of stuff, it's how do you set goals in
yeah.
all of those different things that are realistic?
Yeah, and I mean, I think it applies to everything in life. How much time you put in something, you're going to get the results behind what you put in. Like if you put only an hour a week on training, well, don't expect to have a crazy engine or whatever your goal is. Like,
Yeah.
well, you have to put time behind it. And that's, I think, the hard part for people that have jobs, families, whatever. Like, yes, you're going to have a limitation in time. Well, with the time that you have, what goals can you obtain? And then if you want something a little bit higher, then are you willing to sacrifice something in your life to put that into training or whatever
Yeah. Yeah.
else you're doing?
Yeah. One thing that we ask everybody that we do this with, Jeffrey, is to try to get a couple of takeaways, and I think they probably already have lots of those today. And I know, I know we're going to also talk about kind of how to follow stuff with your gym and stuff too, and you can see some of those things. But for somebody who's, maybe not, they've watched you at the games or watched some of that stuff and think, wow, this is really cool, and then maybe also see some of the community that is connected with a CrossFit gym like yours. But there are a lot of people who are probably a little more scared about that because you come in and you
Mm-hmm.
do kind of group settings and stuff like that. Do you have a couple of tips for somebody like that who's maybe a little nervous to try something like that the first time?
Yeah, I mean, everything you try for the first time is gonna make you nervous. Like if it's your first time jumping off a plane and doing parachute, well, you're gonna be scared.
Yeah.
But if you want to do it, like do it the first time. Maybe try to go with a friend. That can be less scary. Go talk to the coach beforehand. Like the coaches are always there to help. And like if you're not comfortable in the gym setting, like go in front of the class, don't go behind, stay close to the coach. Like, and I mean, do your own thing. Nobody in the gym is there to judge anyone else. Like, and if they do, then you're in the wrong gym. But um no one, everybody's there to have fun and work out and like chase their own goals, and
Yeah.
everybody's going to respect everybody. So just, you have to do it once. But yeah, if you're really scared, maybe a friend would be the best idea.
It's funny that you mentioned that I think people do think that when you're going to a gym, especially for the first time, that everybody's
Yeah.
looking at you and all of those things. I remember I asked the same thing, something very similar of Annie Thorstadter, and she said, no, he said, the funny thing is nobody cares about what you're doing. Like you might think that, but nobody else is caring at all because they're
When
caring about themselves the exact same
oh
way.
yeah,
So,
when you're
so
doing burpees, you're not looking left or right. You're doing your own thing. And yeah, that's the beauty of sport. I mean, everybody's going to do it and do your own thing. And but in a group setting, I find it's more fun that particular way than alone in the gym with your headphones on.
yeah.
But yeah.
Well, again, people I'm sure are going to be listening to this, wanting to follow kind of you, and especially with Rogue coming up in the next little while and all of those things. What are some of the best ways to kind of follow you and what you're doing, Jeff, over the next little while?
I only have Instagram. I don't
Mhm.
have anything else. So
Yeah,
Instagram is the easiest way. I mean, Caro also posts some stuff that I don't. So
yeah,
she's a good way to see some behind the scenes that I don't post. And then sometimes like the gym Instagram as well. Like if I work out or if I work out in the group classes, they're gonna see a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Cool.
the gym is an interesting. Like the posts are different.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
different than
we'll
what I post. So.
yeah, like we'll absolutely put both of those on there, and we'll put all of them on the show notes so that people can kind of connect with it. Because I do think also following the gym is pretty cool because they see. I think your latest one was you kind of chatting with the group there
Yeah.
and explaining a workout, which is pretty cool. So
Yeah.
so yeah, if if you haven't kind of followed Jeffrey and the stuff he's doing, we'll make sure all of those things are in the show notes. But definitely do that to see kind of what he's doing. I mean, I will tell you that we talk to people from all over the place, but it's kind of cool because we're Canadian, and it's nice to
Uh-huh.
see kind of Canadian people like you and Sam and Pat and all those people doing so well at in those events. So that's really cool. But otherwise, I know you're busy. We caught you at the one time. It's maybe a little less busy. So thanks so much for taking the time with us today. It's
Thank
been
you.
it's been
Thank you.
great. All right. And everybody else, again, if you haven't hit subscribe in the podcast, do that right now. We have great people every week, just like Jeffrey. And yeah, again, we'll talk soon on Big Idea, Big Moves.